So imagine you're in a room with a pie. You see the pie and you're like, hey, cool, a sweet, delicious looking pie. You're like, I love pie. This pie looks so promising. So you take a bite of the pie. As it turns out, the promising, delicious looking pie actually tastes like shit. And you go, why did that amazing looking pie taste like shit? What the hell did I just eat? And you're disappointed because the amazing looking pie actually was crap and you wasted your time. This is exactly what happens with Sun Ra's Space is the Place. You're handed this amazing looking movie with Egyptian god looking guys, spaceships, and awesome original music, and after the movie you're left with a pit in your stomach because this awful pie of a movie was absolutely terrible. I mean, look at this guy. Dick. I mean, look at this guy. Who wouldn't want to watch this movie? It had so much potential. So where did Space is the Place go wrong?
Let's talk about the plot of this movie. When we say plot, we mean that in a very loose sense of the word. I say plot, but it's not really a plot. It's a mess. Anyway, we start out on what looks like an alien planet with this dude dressed like an ancient Egyptian talking about how he wants to transport all the black people there and have them start a colony away from white people.
We set up a colony for black people here.
We're introduced to the main character of our movie, Sun Ra, who proceeds to be on screen less than half the movie and has less dialogue than Mad Max. Sun Ra never explains anything aside from in this scene. So we're transported from an alien planet to a club in Chicago in 1943. After a bajillion shots of rich white people and not so rich black people, we're finally introduced to our main antagonist, the Overseer. We immediately get the impression that he's a pimp. The Overseer is a flat, useless character. He's apparently supposed to represent greed and corruption in the black community, but he just comes off as a useless jerk. Now back to the plot. After he's told to get off stage, the piano player, whose name is Sunny Ray, brilliant. Anyway, Sunny Ray starts to play so loud that the entire club explodes, and he's left alone with the Overseer. He challenges the Overseer to a card game to duel for the fate of the black race. This is where our perception of plot goes out the window.
The Overseer transports us to Oakland, 1976, where shit gets crazy. This here is Exposition Dump Man. Guess what he does? He tells us that Sun Ra is coming back to Earth from outer space after 7 years in his spaceship that looks like a pair of binoculars. Or bread. He also tells us that Sun Ra is traveling with his jazz band called the Orchestra, which will be important later. Sun Ra shows up with a colander that puts Exposition Dump Man in the hospital and proceeds to tell the fourth wall why his music is important. The movie cuts to the card duel where Sun Ra and the Overseer each win a point for some reason. What is happening in this movie? Then we cut to a bunch of black teenagers who are having a rager in someone's basement when Sun Ra teleports there. He explains that he's an ambassador from outer space. He basically tells them that they should come with him to the other planet or he'll make them go.
Tom, you gonna make us come?
Then I'm gonna have to do you like they did you in Africa. Chain you up, take you with me.
What? Meanwhile, we cut back to Exposition Dump Man in the hospital with the Overseer pretending to be a doctor. He slaps Exposition Dump Man in the hands and wakes him out of his coma. This pie tastes like shit! The nurse leaves and comes back with another nurse. The Overseer kicks Exposition Dump Man out of his own hospital bed so he can have sex with the two nurses. What is happening in this movie?
So we cut back to Sun Ra, who has opened an employment agency for people who are interested in going with him to his black people planet. This is one of his many ways of trying to get his message out. He doesn't hire anybody, but for some reason the FBI starts looking for Sun Ra. Sun Ra and Exposition Dump Man make a deal about Sun Ra talking on the radio to spread his message more. The next cut is Sun Ra on the radio spreading his message more. After Sun Ra talks about his concert...
You know what? This is taking too long. Long story short, the Overseer owns a brothel. Ra tries to put on a concert. He gets kidnapped by the FBI. 3 black kids save him. The FBI show up and shoot one of the black kids. Ra teleports to his ship. Exposition Dump Man gets split in half. Ra flies away with the black half of Exposition Dump Man. The planet fucking explodes. Fuck! Upon first impression, Space is the Place makes about as much sense as calculus on an acid trip. The plot is almost non-existent, the dialogue is all over the place, the music is nauseating in some places, and the message that Sun Ra is trying to convey is as strange as they get. Throughout the film, I kept thinking, what the actual fuck? Or, what is happening in this movie? But this film is so confusing, so out there, so ridiculous, that I can't help but think there's something there. It would take an absolute madman or an absolute genius to make a film this strange. We all know geniuses don't make movies.
Spaces the Place is literally a movie about an Egyptian black man who wants to take all the other black people to another planet using music. He ends up dueling a pimp lord for the fate of the black community, and then the planet explodes. This movie is packed with action, romance, and comedy, if you want to laugh at how bad this movie is. However, the film does offer some interesting insights into the 1970s black America. I just wish we could understand them. At the very least, the characters were interesting. Sun Ra upholds his persona as an intergalactic intellectual devoted to the progress of the human race. The Overseer is a super pimp lord that represents the evil in the black community, and Exposition Dumpman is a helpless African-American youth swept along by the tide of corruption and greed during the 1970s. Another notable feature of the film was the use of Sun Ra's music. He wrote all of the music for his intergalactic orchestra that supposedly play intergalactic music designed to spread his message and transport the listener to another plane of consciousness, or whatever. While the music is surreal and thought-provoking in some cases, oftentimes it is boring, repeats ad nauseum, and so hard to listen to that it detracts from the film.
Listening to too much of it makes you want to beg only for the sweet release of the black expanse of death to end your suffering. Just like this movie. It's still better than Nickelback, though.
To give credit where credit is due, Spaces the Place is a very intelligent movie. It sheds light on some of the issues that plagued the African American community during the 1970s, and expresses a need for social change and for humanity to move forward. Unfortunately, the intelligence of the film is overshadowed by the fact that it is a shitty piece of pie. I mean, that movie.
Spaces the Place is difficult to watch, impossible to understand, terrible to listen to, and the gems of the film are so hidden that it's not even worth it. It takes a very specific type of person to delve into and enjoy this movie on their own, and college freshmen are not that type of person. If you consider yourself an intellectual and you're tired of anything that could possibly be considered normal, and you're ready to work really, really, really hard to figure out what the hell is happening, then this movie is for you. Otherwise, you're probably better off sticking to something more sane like Donnie Darko or Sesame Street. That concludes our review of Sun Ra's Spaces the Place. I'm Peyton.
And I'm MacKenzie.
And we eat your shitty pie so you don't have to. Bye.